My mother is from Oaxaca in Mexico. I was actually born in Mexico City.
In Mexico, you went to the National Autonomous University.
Yes.
And you got a Bachelor of Science in Physics.
Yes.
What propelled you to go into physics?
One is that I enjoyed science. When I took my first class in physics, the teacher went around the room asking what we were going to study. And when it came to me, I said physics. And he said, why? And I said, well, because I don't want to have to deal with people. So I said, you know, all the molecules and all atoms behave exactly the same way, so I don't want to have to deal. And we know in Spanish we say that every head is a world. Every person is different. Yeah, that was the second one. And maybe the third one is that my parents never went to college. They never even went to high school. And so they never influenced me. I'm assuming that if they had gone to college, they might have suggested something that seemed to be more essentially productive in terms of salary. They didn't. So when I said physics, they said, okay, that sounds fine. And so that's how I ended up there.
You get your Bachelor's of Science in Physics and then a PhD later on in Physics and Aerospace Science, and then a Master's in both fields.
Yes.
From the University of Michigan. In 1978, after you got your Master's, what did you see happening for your life? Where did you want to go? How did you want to live?
First of all, I wanted to go out of the country to study my advanced degree. I had my eyes set on Germany. I had been studying German to do that. But I was also studying English at the same time. And so for reasons that may be a little bit long to explain, which are very interesting in many ways, though, anyway, I ended up coming to the U.S. And Michigan is a place that I didn't really know. Mm-hmm. So a friend of mine actually suggested that institution. We applied, we were admitted, and so we ended up there. I ended up going to the PhD program from the very beginning. So the master's degrees were degrees that I obtained as I was studying to get my PhD. My initial intent was to go into a field that was more applied, not quite physics. But then when I did, and I got my master's degree as I was working towards that, but then in that process I thought, this is not satisfying me. And so I switched from the field of remote sensing, which is what I was being given a scholarship to do, into physics. And so I had already gotten a master's degree, so I then switched into physics, and then I took the physics curriculum. I got a master's degree and then a PhD. And so it became a combined PhD, physics and aerospace science.
At the time when you were in Michigan, were there many other Mexican students that were able to speak German and English and Spanish?
No, as a matter of fact, when I was at that age, even in Mexico, there were not very many people who spoke English. It was not as common. It has become quite a bit more common now because television has really played a role, and the communication across countries has become more intense, and English has become really the language to communicate mm-hmm. in the world. At one point, you may be aware or remember that people were talking about French becoming the language that was going to be used across the world, and then German. And then, as it turned out, English became the more prominent one. So more and more people are encouraged to learn English. And so in Mexico right now, it's fairly common to, in the main cities, in the big cities. In the small cities, it's not as common. But so, no, there were not too many other people that spoke, or at least had understanding of German. We were actually, at the time, I remember, we were only 9 students from Mexico at the University of Michigan with scholarships from Mexico.
Wow.